Okay, guys, we're going to actually finish up with this video and the next one. We're going to finish up this extra credit worksheet I gave you last week, and you very soon will get another one. And hopefully, eventually, I'll get all my videos caught up with all the problems, extra credit problems I've been presenting to you. But anyways, this one is a very important one, guys, to understand. It's pretty simple to learn once you catch on, though. So pay attention. Here we go. On number 62, notice they want us to find the zeros. Remember, that's another name for our roots, guys. R-O-O-T-S. Another common name is our x-intercepts. Another way of saying where does it cross the x-axis, okay? And I'm actually going to show you in this video to make sure you understand visually what we're doing here. But anyways, how do we do it? Well, I've taught you many times in class, we're going to make each factored part a zero, right? If we want to know where equals 0, we set it equal to 0. So when does x squared minus 2 equal 0? Well, adding 2 to both sides, that's when x squared equals a 2. And once I square root both sides, x is going to be positive or negative square root 2. Don't forget from now on, guys, when you do a square root, you have a positive and a negative answer. Now, just for graphing's sake here, if you did square root of 2 on your calculator, guys, you would get, in this case, positive or negative 1.414. Okay? Remember that when we go to the graph. Now, let's do the same thing with x squared minus 8 here. So, if x squared minus 8 equals 0, I'm going to add 8 to both sides. X squared would have to be 8. Once I square root both sides again, x is going to end up being positive or negative square root of 8. Now, unfortunately, I don't have that one memorized. So we're going to go to the graph and figure out what square root of 8 is, okay? So check this out. So basically, we solved it. We have a total of 4 answers. We have positive or negative square root of 8, positive or negative 1.414, i.e. square root of 2. Now let's look at the actual graph. Guys, this is the actual graph of the function I gave you. And notice right there, that, guys, is negative square root of 8. So if you take your calculator and do negative square root of 8, you will get negative 2.828, okay? And notice on the other side, where does it cross 0? At positive square root of 8. And finally, we already talked about it's going to cross right there at negative square root of 2. And right there at positive square root 2. But pause the video to make sure you understand. With the graph done, we literally found out exactly where it crossed our x-axis right here, which I just shown in green, okay? That's exactly what we got. Those are exact 4 answers. Again, the graph crosses exactly these 4 spots, doesn't it? Okay, pause the video again if you need to. All right, let's take a look at 63. What makes this 0? Of course, if x minus 1 equals 0, x must equal 1, right? What makes this 0? Well, if x squared minus 3 equals 0, that means x squared equals 3. And once I square root both sides, x is going to be positive or negative square root of 3, which is 1.732 plus or minus. All right, so let's see if that matches its actual graph. Again, note, guys, here is the x-axis shown in green. Notice it crosses over here at negative 1.732, i.e., negative square root of 3. It crosses right there at 1, 0. And it crosses right there at positive square root of 3. That, again, matches exactly what we got here. Okay? So, guys, pause the video and try the next problem, please. Let's see how you did. We know that right there simply means x equals 0, correct? We know right there x equals positive 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. we know right there x equals -3. -3 plus 3 equals 0. And finally, here's something interesting that happens, guys. If I solve x squared plus 1 equal to 0, I'm trying to make this equal 0. Let's see what happens. Don't I get x squared equal to -1? All I did was -1 both sides. And when I do the square root, don't I get x equal to plus or minus I? Remember, we learned about complex numbers a little bit, imaginary numbers, right? Now let's see how this relates to our graph. Notice it's a little bit tighter here, but right there, guys, that's -3, right? Right there, you see, is my 0, 0 point. And finally, the one on the right is +3, 0. Notice I have only 3 roots this time, 3 zeros, right? What happened to these right here? Well, remember, guys, what you see on a graph are real numbers, right? Imaginary numbers are not going to show up on a real graph, a real number graph. So whenever you get complex numbers or i's, know that it's not going to cross the x-axis anywhere because i's don't really exist in the real world. Pause the video and try the next problem, please. Okay, let's see how you did on this one. This right here, if x squared plus 8 equals 0, that means x squared equals -8. And when I do the square root, x is plus or minus square root of 8i. That negative becomes an I again, right? We have, so far, 2 imaginary answers, right? Complex answers. Notice that. So what that tells us in the real world, it's not going to cross at those points. Now, what about over here? Well, if x squared minus 3 equals 0, of course, x squared equals 3. This one we can take the square root of and get plus or minus square root of 3. So note that these are 2 real answers. So we have 2 real and 2 imaginary. Let's see how that translates to the graph. Well, notice we have only 2 points where it actually crosses for real. This again is negative square root of 3. This right here again is positive square root of 3. The other 2 imaginary roots will not show up on a real graph, guys. Pause the video one final time if you need to. Okay, guys, so hopefully now you're learning a few things like how to solve these for 0. Knowing what it means, you actually can see them on the graph. Unless they're imaginary, then you know you just have unreal or imaginary answers that won't show up on a real graph, right? And so long story short, that ends this video. And I have one more similar video coming up, video number 7, guys. Heads up for that one. I'll see you in class.